Hello, Canyon City. This is our first city council meeting for the year 2021. I don't know about the rest of city council, but I'm really glad that we wrapped up 2020 and we're ready to move on to a new year. We have a lot of exciting things planned for 2021 as we can start putting COVID hopefully to bed and move forward with more gusto than we have before. There's a lot to be said on that issue, but we will be holding a special meeting to talk about the state of the city, looking backwards and where we're at and looking forwards. And that'll be at the monthly Facebook Live with the mayor this Thursday, December 7th at 4 p.m. That will be on social media, Facebook Live and Channel 191. There is room in the chambers here if the public wants to come in adequate numbers per COVID rules. And the council and staff will be here at the chambers as that's broadcast. With that, I'd like to call this meeting again to order and have roll call, please. Thank you.
Councilmember Dennehy.
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Jaquez.
Here.
Councilmember Meisner.
Aye, or here, something.
Councilmember Reed. Absent. Councilmember B. Smith.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Here.
Mayor Smith.
Here. And we'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Cindy, do we have any citizens' requests to speak to council?
Yes, ma'am, it's on your list. In your,
Okay. Looks like we have Emily Tracy. Please go ahead and come forward.
Good evening, council, and Happy New Year to everyone. You'll be happy to know that I'll be real brief tonight. Just wanted to really say hello and let you know that Canyon City's Energy Future continues to meet and continues to work to gather information about potential alternatives for electricity service in the area here. We're reaching out to communities who've done some creative things, who even in the areas of renewable energy. We're reaching out to folks who are actually looking at possible changes in our state law that could impact on what we can do locally, the kinds of local control that so many of us in Colorado like to have, that there might be some things in the law that would improve that. And really the only question I have this evening, but I'd be happy to answer questions if any of you have any, just wondered if you could provide the public a little bit more information about the topic that's on your executive session agenda tonight.
Emily, tonight we are getting some legal advice from our attorneys about the Black Hills franchise agreement and its expiration. I also would like to let you and those who are interested in the public that we do have scheduled on February 3rd on a general government meeting the ideas that we have around creating an advisory energy committee. And so we made sure we put that right we shifted the agenda around to make sure that was put at the top of the year.
Okay.
As we move forward. And that will be a committee that will be solicited by the city council and approved by the city council on how that committee will be formed and the positions filled.
Great. That's good to hear. Any questions for me about our work? Okay. Thank you. Was hoping we could hear a little bit more, but we'll wait and see what you can release after your executive
But
session.
yeah, when it's legal counsel, it just kind of makes it a little bit more difficult we have to take that legal counsel before going public. But
Sure.
But we appreciate all that you're doing and hope you had a very happy holiday season.
Right. All right, thank you.
And we also have a number of other requests to speak to City Council that has to do with the memorializing of former Chief Stefanik. And I think that I would probably like to wait until we come to that topic to invite them to come forward. With that, we'll move on to City Council announcements. I do know that I already mentioned the state of the city. We also have this Wednesday, Mayor Pro Tem, do you want to announce our general government?
We do have a general government meeting Wednesday, and we're going to be hearing from the Humane Society and discussing Jake breaks. And then in addition, Wednesday morning, we also have our regular KRLN interview. So if there's any council members that'd like to attend, make sure you let Ashley or I know.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We also have tomorrow for city officials community officials, an updated meeting with the Fremont County Department of Public Health. We'll get our latest update on COVID-19 in our county and where we might be moving forward. So we'll look forward to maybe reporting on that meeting when that happens tomorrow in the morning. Also hope that all of the city council and staff had safe and happy holidays. Yeah, it's good to see you all again. Are there any other announcements that would like to be made? Okay, then we'll go ahead and move forward with the consent agenda. Ryan Stevens.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Item 6A is the approval of minutes for the regular city council meeting on December 7th, the general government meeting on December 9th, and the special city council meeting that was the joint session with Planning Commission on December 2nd. 6B is to approve the mayor to appoint Canyon City Police Department Chief John Schick to the Combined Regional Communications Agency Board. 6C reappoints Gary Clark and Robert Willett to the Board of Adjustments and appoints Daniel Dick as the alternate on the Board of Adjustments. 6D is approve the part-time permit tech position job description. 6E extends bid 4217 for crack and chip seal for A1 chip seal not to exceed $330,000. 6F extends bids 0620 traffic control signs to Custom Products Corporation in an amount not to exceed $30,000. 6G extends bid 1220 tree and stump removal to Front Range Arborists in an amount not to exceed $50,000. 6H extends bid 1820 stormwater facilities maintenance to Moonrock Landscaping in an amount not to exceed $150,000. 6I awards bid 0421 gravel and rock to Aggregate Source in an amount not to exceed $82,000. 6J awards bid 0521 concrete to Fremont Paving and Ready Mix in an amount not to exceed $53,000. 6K awards bid 0621 hot mix asphalt to Martin Marietta in an amount not to exceed $60,000. 6L awards bid 721 flow fill to Fremont Paving and Ready Mix in an amount not to exceed $16,500. 6M awards bid 0821 aluminum sulfate award to Chemtrade Chemicals in an amount not to exceed $75,000. 6N awards bid 0921 chlorine to DPC Industries in an amount not to exceed $20,000. 6O approves the Lowhead Pump Station flight pump repair to Water Technology Group in an amount of $17,599.55. 6P ratifies the mayor's signature on the Certified Local Government Subgrant application for the Historic Preservation Plan. 6Q authorizes the mayor to sign the Chamber of Commerce agreement for 2021. 6R authorizes the mayor to sign the Royal Gorge Trail access agreements. And we do have one more agreement that will come before council at the next meeting, so there's two in there for this meeting. 6S ratifies a list and files a list of bills for 12/8 through 12/30 and the P-card disbursements from 10/20 to 11/17. And 6T receive and file a list of bills from 12/31 of 20 to 1/4 of 21.
Thank you, Ryan. We'll now turn some time over to Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Questions
Sure.
about some of these items. On item E, do we know what streets are being repaired by crack and chip? Do we have a list of that compiled?
For the chip seal, I do not have a list in front of me.
Looks like Adam Lancaster's
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
Zoom.
he's
If you'd
on.
like to come on,
Adam, do you have that list available?
I do have that list, and I can send it out first thing in the morning.
Thank you.
It's the same list that we were going to do this year, but we had to cut because of the budget.
Okay. All right, and then my other question was on Q, the chamber agreement. It does list vaguely what is allocated for those funds, but can that be, I guess, expanded upon a little bit? What are, well, operational and corporate expenses? What I'm trying to get at is any of this going to rent or utilities, things like that?
So it's meant to cover the tourism staffing, the administrative costs and operational costs for some of the tourism activities that they do. Some of those are answering phones, sending out information regarding people who want to visit the area, some of those tourist informational type of activities.
Also, I wondered, are we still doing the visitor's guide for them? Do we still have, I know we had,
We had
Kinda
designed
taken
one.
out-
I don't know that we printed one last year. But that's
Was-
certainly something else that we could do.
was
Yep.
it printed the year before?
I think it was always.
Yeah, it was
printed?
printed the year before, but I believe the new one that was actually first used last year in
Okay,
a PDF format.
and it's online?
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all I had.
Councilmember Meisner, not to put you on the spot, but I recall that you had some suggestions while we're on the Chamber of Commerce contract, that this might be an appropriate time to discuss that.
Well, when the chamber was here a couple of months ago, we had some discussion about trying to unify chamber and non-chamber businesses. And the monies that this council is supporting the chamber with, those really are monies that come from the entire community. And I would like to see some kind of stipulation in that agreement that obligates the chamber to try to move forward with their concept that he talked about in terms of having some programs that support chamber and non-chamber members. And I've been a chamber member in this community and other communities. I understand the feeling that goes on that chamber's there to support the chamber members. But if we're going to give city funds to that entity, I really think that entity has an obligation to try to support all of the businesses with some of their programs, not just chamber members.
Is that something, Councilmember Meisner, that you would wish to table this, to have a revision
Well, there's,
made?
the other, at one point, we had in their agreement some stipulation in terms of when we had the visitor center. Are they still functioning with that unit?
The cabin?
Right.
Yes. So they were functioning last year, but within the confines of the COVID restrictions, and then, presuming, COVID restrictions are loosened this year, they would again be operating the visitor's cabin.
I seem to recall that some previous agreements included some hours of operation and minimum. Does anybody else recall that?
They're there under
Yeah.
scope of services on the first page.
On the first page?
Yeah, subparagraph.
2.
2 under scope of services, number 1 there. It talks about the hours of operation in the days. Is that what you were thinking of?
So it sets the hours both for the Chamber of Commerce office itself as well as the visitor cabin.
I'm gonna step in just for
Sure, go ahead, Tim.
1 second. The reason I'm stepping in is because I'm on the chamber board as well. And That one thing that has been come up very strongly is that we need to encourage, one, we want to encourage everybody to join the chamber, but two, those that aren't, we want to offer services and that, and try to get all the businesses involved, whether they become chamber members or not. And I know Cooper's doing a good job on trying to get that organized, and so to answer that, Jim, I know that is one thing that they are working on and trying to get this, so, you know, they don't want to step on all the chambers members, you know, toes, like it's free, but they're even changing the structure on different businesses and that, but they have said that services will be also available to non-chamber members.
I think a good demonstration of that was the Tree of Lights, or with the nonprofits and the decorating of the windows for Christmas. That was something that they really stepped up to the plate to make sure that all businesses had promotion during the shopping of the holiday season. Councilmember Smith?
I just had a follow-up to that, Councilmember Dennehy. Cooper Trahern came on board for the chamber in November, is that correct?
He's been on the chamber for a long time on the board.
As
but
far as director,
As
though?
the director, yes.
So he's still got some time to figure some things out
Yep.
in that seat as well.
Yep, he has, but he really has some good ideas, and I think we have a strong board, and I think you'll see a lot of different changes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
I can't make up my mind if I want to talk or not, so I'm just going to talk.
Just go for it.
Spit it
I
out.
keep hitting my button and I'm taking it back. Okay, so what I've observed, and, you know, Jim, you spoke on this too, but what I've observed about other chambers is that there's a lot of event planning, a lot of, and we can't do events right now, I'm aware of that, but, you know, chambers are typically very involved in every aspect of the community. I've even seen it where the chambers have put out the whole community event. And that's not what we're looking for, but, you know, to have some, to have some, I lost my train of thought. Just to have some event planning and some integration and, you know, some of that would be really great. You know what, I was going somewhere with it and I lost my train of thought.
Just
But-
press your button when you're ready again.
No, but the chamber they do have, I think, a really strong new direction. They have a fantastic board going on now. I do believe that, you know, that they're, you know, I can say this, well, no, I can't say it, but I think we'll see some great things happening in the chamber within the next 6 months that you'll go, okay, now we got a good chamber.
I'm not saying we didn't have a good chamber. I think we've always had a great chamber. I think that to be more community-oriented with the whole community would be ideal, is all.
Councilmember Jaquez?
And I agree with Councilmember Meisner, you know, with the last meeting we had here. And I hope we see it. We mentioned the fact that we know the chamber is there to support their members. But we give them money, and that's everybody's money, the citizens' money of Canyon City, not just the business owners that belong to the chamber. And so we want to start having, in my opinion, I would like to start having the chamber start opening up to the whole entire community, whether they're a member or not. Maybe that's how you'll get some of them to join you. You know, if you open the doors and let them out there, and I don't know how it is now, but it used to be, if you ain't a chamber member, don't come and talk to me, we ain't gonna do nothing. I hate to see that philosophy stick around. Let's get it going so that it's everybody out here that's in the citizen, it's your money that's going to the chamber. And it's our business to make sure that we do due diligence with your money. And so that's why I'm speaking to the chamber. You need to start looking at the entire community of Kansas City, all the businesses, whether they are a member or not, because together, what's that one saying? Together we stand, united we fall. I mean, united we stand, and we don't, we're gonna fall. So let's get together and grasp hands, okay? That's my feeling on that part.
I believe traditionally the money from the city has been specifically earmarked for the tourist cabin and tourist purposes, which is for for the benefit of all. I will say that they also have their Business 101 classes that are available to the general public. And during the COVID task force, they certainly did work for the benefit of all small businesses and not just their members, as a demonstration that they are there to be a support for business. So I feel comfortable with this contract and the relationship moving forward. I think we either need to move on from the subject or make some changes that,
Well,
if needed.
did they not utilize the visitor center last year?
COVID, the tourist cabin was closed because of COVID, and so they put that money into helping pay for the Royal Gorgeous online auction that we did during the shutdown. And so they used that money, which was originally the city's money that was granted to them for that, to be able, as a portion of that, to run that auction to help keep businesses open and operating and running business even though their doors were forced closed. Any other questions from council as we move on from this? It's too bad there isn't a member of the chamber here. It would be nice when
Well,
we
there's
have these
another example.
contracts to have them here and present to
I mean,
answer the questions.
They've got an item on
and-
the agenda and they don't even have representation.
Mhm.
So I would suggest that item Q be removed from the consent agenda for further consideration.
You want to table it to further?
I would table it. That's my
Okay.
recommendation.
Well, when it's time to make a motion, let's keep that in mind. But we probably have other discussion or questions for the consent agenda. Do we have any other questions from city council from the numerous items of the alphabet on the consent agenda? I know I have some. I need to get back to it. Your light?
Oh, I do have, oh, never mind, this is on something
Well,
else.
go ahead, Councilman Meisner.
Well, until my light's working, I would also recommend that item 6D be removed from the consent agenda and moved to the end of the discussion items, which is like I would ask that item D be moved from the consent agenda to item F of the discussion agenda.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
What am I doing?
I don't know. You tell us.
Oh, I don't need anything.
Okay, I
Can
thought
I
you said
sec-
you
or
had something.
Did he make a motion? Is that what he was doing?
No, no, he
Oh.
hasn't. And I do have a question, Ryan, on item number H. And this is a good example. Item number H is the bid for stormwater facility maintenance to Moon Rock Landscaping. And this is a really good example of frequent requests by Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick that we differentiate this expenditures in the stormwater funding. And this definitely, we want to make sure that that demonstrates that this is going for MS4 permitting, which is different than infrastructure payments and things like that. So it's a good example that I would like to see that happen. And on item P, for the certified local government, I wasn't expecting a need for an official report or an expert to be hired to create this report. Is this standard, and is it absolutely necessary for applying for the grant money that we potentially will wish for?
Yeah, so there's grant money available. The historic preservation plan, the last, well, I don't know that we've ever actually had one done. We, when we did the district about 20 years ago, the historic downtown district, there was a lot of work that went into that. But this is kind of along the lines of, similar to what we're doing with the comprehensive plan. Doing that historic preservation plan kind of outlines some of the goals and tasks for the Historic Preservation Committee.
And then my next question is on the Royal Gorge Trail Access Agreement. It refers to the sweet spot, which is on city property. And we also said how the city will maintain $1 million, for insurance in case there's incidents, and $2 million aggregate. But my question is at the Sweet Spot, there's also opportunities for rock climbing, and they have slack lines set up, and even a little bit of, I don't know who put it in, but some via ferrata. And does that not put Kansas City at a higher risk of liabilities?
Yeah, and actually, the license agreement for the Sweet Spot will be the one that we actually bring back to the next council meeting. These are the maintenance and access agreements that we have here today.
Okay.
But the actual agreement for the Sweet Spot, that will be an additional agreement that we bring forward next time.
Okay, very good. Are there any other questions on the consent agenda? Oh, sorry, Jim. Yeah, you're just gonna have to knock on my window here. I don't know why you're not coming in. Everybody else is, seems to be.
I'll be as quick as I can. Just for my benefit and public's, explain briefly as you can the DOLA CFRF. I realize those are COVID grants. That's money we're getting from the state that we're distributing to various businesses?
Correct. So that's our allocation from the COVID relief funds that we received. So that's the 1.3 million and change that we have the agreement with. So it flows from the federal government to the states, to the county, to the city. So we have a share agreement with the county and the other municipalities in Fremont County on how those funds will be dispersed. There are a lot of rules that go with the COVID relief funds, and we've been using those funds to help our businesses stay open. We use some of those for purchasing the outdoor heaters. We use some of them for the temporary patios. This latest round of grants was to help reimburse expenses that these businesses had while they were shut down. Just because you're shut down as a business, that doesn't mean that your expenses go away. You still have utilities to pay, rent to pay, all those types of things. So we used a lot of those funds to help reimburse those additional expenses. One of our conditions, though, is that none of those expenses, there's no double dipping allowed. So if they received the federal PPP loan, if they received money from the county or any other federal monies, they were not allowed to take any of those additional, but they weren't allowed to submit those expenses more than one time. So we're trying to fill the gap that with those COVID funds that, for those businesses that didn't get in on any of the PPP or any of the other federal funds that were out there. And we've received a lot of great feedback from our businesses.
Do you have a rough estimate how much that you've distributed?
85% of 1.2 million?
Yeah, it's about 8.
There you go.
We anticipate that we have a couple, 200,000 to 400,000 left. We've got this last round of grants that are going out, and we're working on those tallies now.
Okay.
Can I ask Jim?
Go ahead, Dolly.
I don't know who talks more, me or you.
That was not fair.
Huh?
Go ahead.
So there was a similar grant that went out from the county at around the same time. How did you, or were you able to find out if some of those businesses received that grant and a city grant?
We tried to coordinate as best we could. Everybody that's receiving one of our grants is signing an affidavit saying that they've not received any
Okay.
other funds for those expenses that they submitted.
Okay. Well, good job, by the way. I know there's some pretty relieved business owners. They're feeling a little bit lighter these days.
Well,
So-
I hope so. It's the economic development team, Brandy Fowler in particular, they've been working really hard to not only, put all the grants together and review all the submissions, but really beating the bush and making sure everybody has heard about it, and really trying to make sure that, people know that these opportunities were available. And if it wasn't something that we could fund, or if it was a business that was in the county, we also worked to get them over to the county so that they could apply for their funds.
Well, and I also want to say too that I feel like, so lately it feels like, there's been a lot of business in our community has changed. The way that businesses have had to run across America have changed. And people might feel like customer service is down a bit. But I have to say that, there's been a lot of talk that there's been, longer wait times, or, this person was rude to me, tension is high, those kinds of things. I just want to, say to our community that I really feel like our businesses and employees are working very hard to accommodate in the conditions that they've been given. And, they've been dealing with the stress of money issues, and they've been dealing with the stress of maybe their employees aren't getting enough hours, and they're struggling trying to make rent and buy food for their families. So I just want to put it out there to our community to really be patient with our businesses as we try to wrap up, if we're at a wrap-up end of this pandemic phase. But this has gone on a long time, and people are getting tired and weary, and I just think it needs to be said that, let's exercise a little patience with our community.
Always good words to say.
Yeah, one other note regarding the COVID relief funds. With the passing of the new COVID relief bill, these funds were originally supposed to be spent by December 31st. That extension has actually been extended to December 31st of 2021. So those additional funds that we have left over, we'll be working on putting together some additional programming to help the businesses.
Yeah, which was huge. I mean, I think that was our biggest message to Congress, was we don't need necessarily more COVID money. We just need to be able to spend what we've already gotten. And yeah. So we're grateful to have that, and most of that will, again, go towards our small businesses and nonprofits to help see them through as best we can. Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Yes, I've got just a request. We've got several items in our packet tonight where we're being shown boundaries on the ground, professional land survey type maps. And Patrick is really good at this in the materials he prepares. But would you please have someone prepare a Google Earth or something where that we can relate to in the real world out there, rather than survey points that depict these various pieces of parcels of land that we're talking about when we have these come up in our packets, please.
Are you referring to the agricultural land for the URA?
Well, and
definitions?
even the
trail access agreements.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition, we've got there's the annexation, but I think that's covered pretty well.
Right.
There was one map we couldn't even read. I couldn't read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for the annex, yeah, for the trails
Brewster.
and especially for the agricultural one, I'm like, it would be really nice to have a really user-friendly
Yeah.
list to refer to on that. Councilmember Meisner, you have officially come up on my
Finally.
dais.
I'll try to be quick. On the cash, I noticed it says bid $3720 for a backup camera. I don't have a real sharp memory, but I don't recall us discussing that. Did we? I would hope. It's for $16,110. I just don't recall approving that. Doesn't mean that we didn't or did.
I don't know that it's a backup camera. I believe that's the camera that goes with the vac truck.
Doesn't matter.
But yes, that was part of that bid.
I do recall that.
Okay. And then I noticed we got a lot of temporary construction easements that I hadn't noticed before.
Those would be the Rhodes Avenue construction
Rhodes?
projects.
And then during some meeting, at some point in time, I've at least suggested that the city look into the state pricing agreement with Dell Computers. Has that happened? Because I'm seeing some more Dell purchases here. Are they utilizing that state price agreement?
I believe so, but I can confirm that for you. That's usually what we do when we do those purchases, is we look for those state bids.
I'm done.
In anticipation of a motion for the consent agenda and agenda, I would like to make some recommendations for that motion. And that motion would be to include to table to January 18th, letter Q, item Q, with an invitation for the chamber to attend. Item 6D to the agenda under 9, I'm going to put it under 9A1. No, actually 9A2, because I would also like to move item 9C to 9A1, considering that we have a large attendance for that. Move them up. So we're going to move 6D to 9A1. We're going to move, let me say this. For the number 9, A1 will be 9C, A2 will be 6D, and A3 will be the original A. So we have both the tabling of Q and the rearrangement of 9. And I would like to have someone make a motion on that, if we may.
Madam Mayor and Council, I move that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of tabling item Q until
January 18th.
January 18th, 2021. And we're going to move item D, that's in Delta, to the discussion item
A2.
9A2. And we're going to move
9C
on
to
the
A1.
discussion agenda, we're going to move 9C to 9A. Thank you.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is well done, Meisner, thank you. Any discussion? I'll call for a vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez? Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, council. Now I'd like to invite City Administrator Ryan Stevens to give us an administrator report.
Yeah, Council, Mayor and Council, you have the written report in front of you. We do have a very full agenda, so I would, unless there are any questions, I'd cede that time back to the council. Do want to make a note, though, that the next City Council meeting, we do have Martin Luther King Day, so that will be taking place on the 19th, the Tuesday, instead of the 18th.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
I do have a question. Ryan, it says, under economic development, says our economic development manager held a conversation with a housing developer in Buena Vista about housing needs in Canyon City. They're showing an interest in developing in Canyon City and will continue discussions. And so that's, the developer is showing an interest in developing housing down here.
It is. It's actually a modular manufacturer, so they actually manufacture some of the homes there on site in BV, and they're looking for opportunities to build and deploy those buildings in residential projects here in Canyon City.
Was this the developer that built the low income or low-income housing there in Buena Vista?
They are currently working on some projects there in Buena Vista. I don't know specifically if it was low income or attainable housing, but I do know that they are working on some projects there. They've recently received some state incentives as well to help increase their capacity from a manufacturing standpoint.
Thank you. Councilmember Meisner?
Just on the Rhodes Avenue, you're mentioning that we have 3 left. What's your confidence level in those 3?
I think we've got 2 left now. So we're working on those additional 2 easement agreements, and I think we still have a little ways to go, but I think we're getting closer.
You'd mentioned unofficially in passing about an alternative design with that upper portion of Rhodes drainage. Is that going to happen, or do we know?
Yeah, I think some of that is going to be based on, we're going to bid it as an alternate. Some of it will be based on how some of those contractor bids come in and whether or not we can fit it into the budget or not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Ryan? Then I would like to open the public hearing, and I will invite, this is for item 8A, and invite City Administrator and Packet Mulready to report, please.
Hand it over to Patrick.
Brendan, can you put my PowerPoint up, please? Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. This evening, we are here to consider the request by owners Fernando Armendariz and Angelica Corona, as well as the project representative George Hall of Crown Point Land Services, to subdivide the property at 523 North Reynolds Avenue by minor subdivision. This is a public hearing, and the project has been properly noticed for hearing before council this evening. The subject property is located at 523 North Reynolds Avenue, just north of Cherry Street. It is actually composed of 2 parcels. The larger parcel stretches between North Reynolds Avenue and Fields Avenue. The second parcel is a legal, non-conforming square-shaped property which has no direct access to an existing right-of-way. In total, the 2 parcels comprise 2.06 acres, and the entire site is zoned R2, medium-density residential. There is an existing single-family residence on the property, taking access from North Reynolds Avenue and a series of accessory structures, including a barn-type structure on the non-conforming lot. The property owner has proposed to subdivide the property into 4 lots. Under the city's subdivision process, the simplest method of such a platting is a minor subdivision, or a subdivision which comprises fewer than 10 acres in total area and proposes to create fewer than 5 lots. To qualify as a minor subdivision, it must also not have any dedication of road rights-of-way to serve new lots with access. Under the applicant's proposal, Lot 1 would contain the existing house and all of the accessory structures and would absorb the non-conforming lot into itself. The lot would be a total of 42,648 square feet and would continue to have access provided via North Reynolds Avenue. Lots 2, 3, and 4 would take access from Fields Avenue. Each of these 3 lots would be approximately 16,678 square feet in area. The specifications for minimums these lots need to meet or exceed come from the existing R2 zoning on the property. The R2 zone district requires lots to have at least 60 feet of frontage along a right-of-way and at least 6,000 square feet of area. All 4 of the lots exceed these minimums, which means they are legal lots under the R2 zone district. Now, in terms of the minor subdivision request, staff finds that the proposed subdivision meets the minimum criteria established for lots in the R2 zone district. All 4 of the proposed lots exceed the 60-foot minimum frontage along a public right-of-way, and all 4 of the proposed lots exceed the 6,000 square foot minimum lot size. The proposed subdivision also fixes a legal nonconformity by absorbing a landlocked lot into the that contains the existing residence, so that it too has adequate access. Finally, the proposed subdivision is consistent with the requirements of a minor subdivision under the Canyon City Municipal Code, Title 16, Appendix A. The project representative also has provided a revised plat exhibit which addresses the language modifications requested by the city engineer, thus removing the need for a condition of approval. And with that, it should be noted that the Planning Commission did conduct a public hearing on this request on December 16, 2020. Following that public hearing, Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend that City Council approve the Armendariz minor subdivision at 523 North Reynolds Avenue. That would conclude the staff presentation. As always, I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have. Also present to speak on behalf of this project is George Hall from Crown Point Land Services.
I would like to invite him to come and address City Council, please.
I can answer whatever questions you may have. I think that he did a very good job explaining everything to you.
All right, thank you for being here. If you don't mind staying up there in case there is a question from council, I'd sure appreciate it. We'll start with Councilmember Meisner.
I think this goes to you, Patrick, but that barn on the previous or the current non-conforming lot, is that not, is that in compliance with the side set-off in the future?
Well,
or is that an issue?
I don't believe it's an issue here. It's legal non-conforming. As an accessory structure, you're only required a 1-foot setback from a side or rear lot line.
1 foot?
1 foot.
Is that changed recently?
No. It's 0 feet from a dedicated alley, but for a rear lot line or a side lot line, 1 foot.
Okay. Answers my question.
I have a question, and this is more of just a curiosity question on the intent of the property owner. Are they intending to sell the lots to be built?
The current owner of the property, the owners, are actually also dual citizenship in Mexico also. They have a agreement to sell Lot 1 to a party right now. It would be my belief that they were planning on selling the other 3 lots to be built on, which would actually help in the tax basis for the city and also employ people while they are actually doing the construction on it.
Well, and fulfill a housing shortage that we have for sure. Councilmember Meisner?
So on the top right picture and also the bottom right picture, that trench ditch looking thing, what's the purpose of that? Is that stormwater or is that irrigation water?
That is an irrigation ditch, sir.
Is there any stormwater drainage that comes off of there? To address the issue of Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick's concerns of, I mean, one of the things that happens is we come in and do development, and we've got drainage, natural drainage on a lot, and we, lack of better terms, we fill up that drainage, and now we've created another storm drainage problem.
So I can probably begin to address this. Adam may have to come in here as well to speak to this, but for the existing structures that are there, they're considered grandfathered in. Any new structure on the 3 new lots that are being created will have to address their stormwater and drainage as part of a building permit when they come in to actually build on the property.
But no
And
drainage.
we have addressed it with drainage easements on the lot lines as well.
In this report, something about stormwater. Stormwater management, number 4.
Yeah, but that doesn't address John's concerns.
Oh, I think it does.
Does it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, there is a, yeah.
It does say drainage easements are depicted on the plat, and that no stormwater improvements are needed for this property.
Okay.
So I took that at their word.
Is there anyone from the public here to speak on this matter? All right, and if there are no further questions from council, I would like to entertain a motion. Councilmember Smith?
Madam Mayor and Council, I move that Council approves the Armandares minor subdivision at 523 North Reynolds Avenue.
Second.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second by Councilwoman Gonzalez. Any discussion? I'll call for a vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, council. The motion has passed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, council.
We will now open up discussion for, technically 9C, and that is for the first reading and adoption by title only of Resolution 3, Series of 2021, entitled, "A Resolution of the City of Canyon City, Colorado, naming the Police Department building at 161 Justice Center Road after former Police Chief Martin Stefanik." I would like to invite the city administrator to present the staff report.
So we received many requests from the public, and a lot of those requests are in this packet as additional material, to name the police department after former Chief Martin Stefanik. We established the Memorial and Naming Committee to help address these types of requests. We did have that committee meet, and we did discuss the merits of this request, and it was unanimously decided to bring this forward to council with the recommendation to move forward with naming the police department building after Chief Stefanik. And I believe you have many requests to speak on this topic, and I'm sure that they're going to do better justice in their own words than I can trying to relay that information.
Yes, and I will, before I invite them to come up, Ryan, there was a question that was arisen, and that was, upon approval from City Council, what are the next steps moving forward? And in particular, in getting the bids for the sign, how is the sign going to be paid for? And then, of course, I'm sure there will be a ceremony, which we would
Right.
suggest having when the weather's better so it can be outdoors.
Yeah, we would plan on doing a ceremony to commemorate the naming of the building. Our facilities director, Jim Johnson, he will begin working on all the logistics of making the name change and the sign change, and determining how much money it's going to cost to make that change.
And as far as the cost, is that something that comes out of the general fund, or is that something that's fundraised by the interested parties?
I don't know that we've discussed that. I was planning on paying it out of general fund.
Okay, that's good to know. We'll go ahead and open with our spokesperson for tonight, and that is Kathy Heron. If you can please come to the front, and because you are being broadcast on television, if you are okay removing the mask so we can read your lips.
Are you sure you want to? First of all, good evening, Mayor Smith and council members, also city administration and staff. I appreciate this opportunity to speak in favor of this resolution pertaining to renaming the Canyon City Police Department building after former Chief Martin D. Stefanik. And please allow me at this time to introduce the individuals who are joining me here this evening. And so I'd like to have Chief's widow. This is Alice Stefanik. She is a long time, not that long, because she's not that old, but she's a long-time employee of the Fremont RE1 School District. Joining her this evening is Chief's grandson, Dylan Stefanik. We also have former Canyon City Police Chief Dan Shull. And we have longtime Fremont County Law Enforcement Officer John A. Smith and his wife Donna Smith. I'll be speaking on behalf of most of them because they agreed that I have a penchant for presentations, or in other words, I have a big mouth. But just for the record, were it not for the COVID-19 epidemic and the ensuing public health orders and guidelines, I have no doubt that there would have been a substantial number of other individuals who would be with us tonight urging approval of this resolution. As some of you may know, Martin Stefanik passed this last summer. He left behind an indelible legacy of professionalism, integrity, service, commitment to community, and a passion for exemplary police work. A short time after Chief's memorial service, discussion began about an appropriate way to honor him. It soon became apparent that the most fitting accolade would be to name the building that he envisioned and brought into being after Chief Stefanik. To that end, Chief Scholl and I approached Mayor Smith about this proposal. We were informed there was no specific policy regarding situations such as this, and Mayor Smith suggested that we garner letters of support outlining why this type of tribute would be appropriate. And so we reached out into the community and beyond, and the response was incredible. Letters were provided from virtually all walks of life: medical professionals, educators, former CCPD employees, law enforcement administrators, senior citizens, community advocates, business people, and more. The International Footprinters Association, a national philanthropic group that supports law enforcement, joined the campaign and endorsed the proposal. Former and current police chiefs lauded Marty's contributions to improving the law enforcement profession. He was sought after for sage advice and his ability to provide deep and thorough perspective on a multitude of issues. We even had the backing of, inconceivable as it may be, lawyers. Each letter peeled back another layer of the man most highly respected. As a man of faith, a devoted husband, father, and grandfather, a mentor, a taskmaster, a support and encourager, a community servant, a teacher, someone who put others above himself, and an innovator. Marty had a magnificent sense of dry humor, and the halls would resonate with his deep and throaty ha, ha, ha. As you saw in the letters of support, being the police chief in Canyon City, especially at the time that he was hired, was a daunting task. Marty tackled vicious allegations and rumors. He led or assisted with investigations of wrongdoing by public officials, and he set the bar high for acceptable performance within his organization. As officers, we knew Chief Stefanik had our back when we carried forth our duties with respect and integrity. He pulled the community together at a time when it seemed to be ripping apart, and he did all this with a calm and reassuring demeanor. We realize that some of you never had the great opportunity to meet Marty, but we hope that through the letters of support, you have gleaned a bit about the giant of a man we hope to honor, a giant not only physically, but also in character. As we stand before you, we understand the city cannot get into the habit of naming numerous buildings after persons perhaps deserving of some recognition. However, in this instance, a decision to name the very building that he saw to fruition is the commendable and correct manner in which to honor Marty Stefanik. We have no doubt that his mission, his achievements, and his values are shared with those who pass through the doors, CCPD employees and civilians alike, and that the future of law enforcement in our community will continue to blaze a forward path, and that each sworn officer and staff member will uphold Marty's determination to truly protect and serve. Therefore, we would humbly request that City Council pass this resolution and begin the process to recognize this truly great man. We thank you for your time and your kind consideration. And I think that Mrs. Stefanik, did you want to come up quickly? And then Chief Scholl, did you want to say?
Hello, and thank you. I told my daughter last night that Kathy was going to be our spokesperson and I wouldn't speak, and she said, "Mom, you at least have to say thank you." And I do want to express on behalf of our whole family our gratitude for your considering this honor for my husband. Thank you very much.
Well, it's hard to follow Kathy. I'm not going to be near as long-winded as Kathy, but I wanted to say hi to Frank and John. Those are two gentlemen that I recognize on council. It's good to see you both. I wanted to thank Mayor Smith for your ability to sit down with us and help carry this forward. It's an important thing to recognize people like this. I knew Marty as a personal friend. When I came here, he was sitting on the oral board and recommended to the city administrator that they pick me as his chief coming in behind him. After that, I could go to Marty about anything about the department, and he would share his personal insight, give me answers if I was troubled by things. But more importantly, even in the last couple of years, Marty would call me and ask, what do you think about what's going on in the city right now? There's this, and this. And he would want to discuss what the issues were and what needed to be done to fix those issues in town. Criminal issues, traffic issues, things like that. And he was always on top of wanting to make things better. He was always a friend, but to me, he was a personal friend. He was like a brother. So I know you're doing the right thing. I applaud your efforts, and I thank you for the time. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan Scholl. We'll now call up John Smith.
I only have one regret, and that is that not many of you people on the panel knew Chief Stefanik. I worked with him his whole tenure. He came in and I had been there for several years. But it took me probably a year before I had the huevos to go into his office and sit down and talk with him. Actually, I didn't even sit down. I was afraid he would throw me out before I had a chance to even sit down and talk with him. It was a very intimidating factor, but he was very specific about what he wanted to do with the employees of the police department. He expected everybody to be heads up, do their job, and do it right. He expected everybody to be well-trained so nobody fell behind on what they were doing. Made me a better officer for sure. I thought I was doing a fairly good job until he pointed out that I had several shortcomings in my job. But he was a very caring, comforting factor. If the chief was your friend and you were a police officer, you didn't have too many worries as long as you did your job and did it right. And he expected that from everyone. So as a tribute to him, I think it's very fitting that his name be upside that building because he's pretty much the one that had it built anyway. So having said all of that, Chief Schick, I welcome you to the community. You got some big shoes to fill, but I think you can probably do it. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, John Smith. We'll now have Donna Smith. Okay, and then we'll finish up with Chief Stefanik's grandson, Dylan Stefanik. Are you okay too? Okay. I would like to say that, well, let's go ahead and have Councilmember Jaquez say something.
I was here when Marty came on with the State Patrol. And my one recollection with him was, there was many, but my one that I remember most is I used to be in charge of the Special Olympic torch run with the State Patrol, and we would go from different locations. And it was our time to do one down here, and I went to Marty and I said, Marty, I said, I'd like for you to start the run for us with the torch. And Marty stopped and looked at me, and then he said, well, he said, I'll tell you what, where's it going from? I said, we're going from Canyon City to Pueblo. And he said, well, if you think I'm going from Canyon City to Pleadville with you, you got another thing coming. And he says, I will do it. So Marty, he conceded to do it. We gave him the torch, and he says, we started at with the police station where the old train station is now, going out there. He went out this way, made a right turn from the park, made a right turn onto Highway 50, and he says, that's it. He says, somebody needs to take over now. But that, you know, that was the kind of guy he was. If he could help and participate on something that was beneficial to everybody, you know, he would do that. And I mean, I was glad that, you know, I got to work on other committees with him, when I was with the Rocky Mountain Behavioral Health people and everything else. So he was that kind of a guy. You know, if he could do something for you, whatever it was, and that. He would do it. He had no hesitation to it. And so my time with knowing him as it pertains to not just my job with the State Patrol, being on city council and stuff like that, he was a tremendous person and bigger in life. And I think it is a good contribution to name that police building after Marty, you know, because, you know, it'll be there forever, just like he'll be in a lot of our hearts forever too. You know, and like I said, John said, it's too bad a lot of the folks here didn't really get a chance to know him and know the type of person he was. You know. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, council member. Now we'll have Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to say that I was privileged to chair the committee that looked at this subject, and it was really quite heartening to see all the letters of support, the high esteem that Chief Stefanik was held within the community. I was privileged to hear some of the interviews, speeches that Ed Norton had preserved, and I got to hear Marty in his own words. That was really, really something. And I would like to suggest that if the city's going to take an action to honor an individual through a naming or something similar, that the record that we've developed for this, you know, all the letters of support, be turned over to the History Center to be preserved there as part of this naming process. And that would seem to be appropriate for future endeavors also. Thank you.
Excellent recommendation. Thank you, Council Member Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick. I have to admit, when Kathy emailed me asking if we could meet about this subject, I came to Ryan and said, I don't know, we just can't, you almost quoted right out of my words, we just can't go naming every building around town after somebody all the time. Because I wasn't one of those that had that privilege of knowing Chief Stefanik. And after meeting with you, I was absolutely blown away. I put some probing questions out to some other community members that I have a lot of respect for, and they, without hesitation, fully endorsed that suggestion. And I want to thank you for your gracious patience as we've developed this official protocol to go through this. I think it gives even more honor to Chief Stefanik that we were able to create this process, particularly for him in this opportunity, and that he rose above and beyond. I've never seen so many letters of endorsement before. It was absolutely inspiring to witness that. I know from that experience and from reading those letters that Canyon City is blessed to have had Chief Stefanik's service on our behalf. And that I know that we'll be able to, hopefully, as he's looking down, continuing to look down on us, that we will be deserving of his approval and pride as we name this building after him, and that his legacy and his professionalism and his excellence and character will live on forever here in Canyon City. I'm very happy for that. And thank you for sharing your husband with Canyon City for all of those years. That's a a big commitment from the whole family. With that, I would like to
Madam Mayor?
invite Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick, please.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that, and I do have an amendment to the resolution, but I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution 3, Series of 2021, a resolution of the City of Canyon City, excuse me, Colorado, naming the Police Department building at 161 Justice Center Road after former Police Chief Martin Stefanik. And I would ask that that it be known as the Martin D. Stefanik Justice Center.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to clarify, the Martin D. Stefanik Justice Center, you want to remove municipal?
Excuse me, I didn't know. Thank you for that
Okay.
correction. Martin
Thank
D.
you.
Stefanik Municipal Justice Center.
Thank you.
I'll call for a vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez? Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, council. Thank you for all that have come today to endorse Chief Stefanik. We'll be looking forward to that ceremony this spring.
Thank you all for coming.
Yep, Kathy, you better save that speech.
I wrote it down.
Thank you. And we'll now move on to now discuss the permit technician, and that was item Q previously on the consent agenda. Ryan Stevens, going to turn that over to you to talk about that new position that's under consideration.
Sure. The part-time permit tech position is a position that's needed within the building department. One, to help accomplish the goal of improving customer service throughout the city as part of our scorecard and benchmarks that we're working on, but also because there is a big business need for actually adding this additional position. Since 2014, we've seen our number of permits each year increase quite a bit. 2014, we were at 443 permits. This past year in 2020, we had 817 permits. So it has almost doubled in those 7 years. In addition to that, we also do contractor licensing. Again, going back to 2014, 362 contractor licenses were issued. In 2020, we were at 550 contractor licenses. So as we continue to see more development happen here in Canyon City, the building department itself has not grown. We only have 2 employees in that department, a building official and a building inspector. And adding this technician per position can help alleviate some of those paperwork and day-to-day activities to keep both our building official and the technician or the inspector in the field, working on doing those inspections, reviewing our plans, and focusing on those items rather than doing the day-to-day paperwork and answering the phone calls and things like that. A lot of those calls can be answered by a technician, and having somebody that's trained for that would help improve the customer service and the overall response rate that we have within the building department.
Thank you, and I do remember having this discussion brief for a little bit at our council retreat, I believe, as we discussed that need for enhanced customer service. Councilmember Gonzalez.
So I just want to say that I think this is a really great idea. A lot of the complaints that come back are just that simply they just can't get an answer. Phone call, they come in to try to talk to somebody and nobody's available. My question is though, how many hours a week are we looking at employing this individual?
It'd be 5 hours a day, so 25
5 hours a
week.
day, Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to noon, or 1 noon.
Okay, so is that kind of a peak hour for contractors or people to come in and ask questions and?
Yeah, we have a lot of that activity happens early on, actually even before City Hall opens. That's why we have a start time at 7 a.m.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Councilmember Meisner.
Kind of in response to Councilwoman Gonzalez's comment, is what process are we going to have in place so that when this individual takes a call and gives an answer, that we know that that answer is in compliance with the way that our current building department is enforcing code?
Yeah, there's going to be a rigorous training process up front to, help get them up to speed on building code and, the processes and things like that. Certainly we'll have a focus on customer service as well. But we're going to have to go through that process, that training process, to make sure that they are well aware of, the processes that we're going through, answering those questions.
So with the addition of this 5 hours, we're going to address the problem of delinquent customer service with people that are calling in. How are the other customer service related issues in the building department being addressed?
Well, we're continuing to work on flexibility within the building department, working towards trying to be problem solving, trying to help out folks that are looking at, making, especially commercial buildings, making changes to those buildings. And I know, Kathy spends time going out to folks that are looking at buying buildings and walking through those buildings and talking about some of those areas that might need to be addressed if, depending on the type of use that they're looking at. And being able, that's another example of what Councilman Gonzalez is talking about, where we've got people that come into the office looking for either the building official or the building inspector to get customer service, but they're out in the field trying to address the customer service issues out in the field, and having somebody that has a full, that not full time, but that presence within the those peak hours, and being able to answer and provide those. That level of service opens up the opportunity for more time in the field for both the building inspector and the building official.
Kathy, would you like to have anything to say about the possibility of a permit technician? Which is item D, by the way, not Q. Sorry.
It would be a really big asset to have a permit technician. Probably when I come in the morning, and I come in at 6 in the morning, I probably already have 8 phone calls and messages. And between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning, we could get up to 20 calls. Sometimes on an average day, we could receive 50 to 60 phone calls a day with people just minor questions. Actually, a lot of the questions sometimes need to be referred to the county because the people live in the county. So it would be a big help for somebody to be able to issue roof permits. A lot of our contractors are coming from out of town, Colorado Springs, Pueblo. They're accustomed to getting same-day roof permits because they can walk in a permit counter and receive either a roof permit or a minor permit from a permit technician. And that would be something that a permit technician could do, is issue those types of permits right away.
So it'll be a quicker turnaround.
Correct.
Any other questions from council? Councilmember Hawkes.
The only question I have is that there's a lot of material in there that I see that the individual's going to have, but is that person going to have like a probationary period with regards to, because I don't see that in here.
Yes.
So they're, okay.
Yeah, every position every non-sworn position within the city starts with a 6-month probationary
Okay,
period.
all right, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. I realize this is a difficult time where a lot of our businesses are suffering, and it's difficult to make these decisions. But City Hall is really a service organization. We do have to provide the service to our citizens. I am concerned about, number of full-time employees. That is one of the biggest cost drivers we have as a city. But nonetheless, I think that that there's a good business case to be made for having a person. One of the constant themes of this council has been to be customer friendly and serve our citizens. And this truly does move us in that direction. The question that I've got is, if we train a person, what is the natural job progression for that half-time person?
Within the building department?
Sure.
Well, we have a building inspector who actually just completed all of his exams, and residential, commercial, industrial. I don't know that we have a whole lot of progression within that department, with it being such a small department. There's the potential, if that position were open, that they could step into an inspector type of position. But as of right now, those possibilities are a little limited.
So where that question is coming from, and maybe I should have given you a clue here, Ryan, but really where that question is coming from, it's similar to the police department, that where we can spend an awful lot of money training an employee to have them, because of wages, take a job somewhere else that where they can advance, either to full-time or it would seem to me that this is, if you look at succession issues, people retirements, things like that, that something like this is a natural progression for an employee such as this to move up the ladder to become an inspector, perhaps, because it's really good training. I mean, would seem to be the natural path for that type of undertaking. And in a way, it gives us a good opportunity to do training, to develop someone that will fit in with this community and with our with the direction that we're taking. And so it's multifaceted. We're being requested to look at a half-time employee. There are other considerations, but nonetheless, I think it's a request that deserves our support.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick. We'll now move to Councilmember Meisner.
Well, to kind of reiterate what Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick has stated, I just want to reinforce that. But I just get concerned that we've got an entry point that has, and potentially would be, a position where we're going to be challenged to keep that person educated on the specifics of building and code enforcement, and that individual given direction to people that will then be followed up with an inspection by our building department. And I think that's a disaster waiting to happen.
Sounds like we'll need to make sure that we have a solid process.
I think, from a process standpoint, we have inspectors or, various roles within the city that have to answer questions that, may pertain to something else that happens, or have, somebody's going to come in and do an inspection. We'll work to make sure that we have that process and that training in place, and that it's going to be a seamless transition between what that permit technician might say versus what the building official or the inspector might be looking for when they go out on that permit or on that site visit. I think, what we're really looking for is, we want those departments to be able to work lockstep in hand to make sure that those customers are getting the service that they're expecting at the time that they're expecting it, and being able to answer those questions and, give them that customer service experience, positive customer service experience.
I think this is a big stride forward in that positive customer service experience for City Hall. I would like to entertain a motion if there's no further discussion.
Madam Mayor and Council, make a motion that what item is this?
D is in dog. D is in dog.
Item 6D.
still. Okay. Are we just looking for approval?
Approval
Yeah,
of the
approval
job description.
to create the permit technician job description.
I make a motion that we approve item D.
6D.
6D, the part-time permit technician job description.
Second.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Meisner.
Just quickly, I mean, if you look at the essential functions, at item 3, the last sentence, it says, conducts research if needed and makes necessary changes to comply with the application process. They can't be changing an application,
Well,
or can they?
You said under essential functions?
Yeah, it's the first page. I mean, I understand what they're trying to do there, but when you're saying make necessary corrections to comply with the application process, I don't think that's in the realm of any staff's responsibility to make those corrections.
Well, if they're issuing a fence permit or something simple that's the same day kind of thing, they can help them do a proper fence permit.
Well, you're making the assumption that the correction that they're making is not a contestable correction. But if they make a correction that winds up being an issue later on,
So why can't it say upon supervisor's approval?
because the supervisor shouldn't be making those corrections to a permit.
Kathy,
And they
you're-
would be making, that permit tech wouldn't be making any corrections to any permit. They would be bringing them to me to make
Right.
sure that everything that's corrected is correct.
So that, it needs to reflect that in this job description. It needs to reflect that statement in this
Okay.
job description.
Right, I don't disagree with what you're saying.
Right.
But the way that this is written leads me to believe that that technician would correct an application.
Okay.
So it needs
Would
to
you
say-
correct an application that I sent you?
Would I correct an application? Yes, I would make notations on it if
Well-
something was incorrect.
Right, but would you actually make a correction on my application?
Not on the actual front application form, but on your plans, I would.
I think that paragraph needs to be reworded.
We can clean that up.
Okay, so there's been Councilmember Gonzalez, did you
Well,
have
I'm
something?
fine with him
No,
cleaning.
Yeah,
I
they-
wanted to
Okay.
jump in on his.
Go ahead.
No, I
She
already
did.
said it. I said what I was going to say.
There's been a motion and a second with direction to clean up that third bullet. Any further discussion? Then I'll call a vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Kathy and Ryan.
Thank you, Kathy.
Definitely want to make sure that we set this up and get it running as smoothly as possible from the day it goes online.
Absolutely.
We'll now move to item number 9B, and this is the first reading and adoption by title only of Resolution 2, Series of 2021, entitled, "A Resolution Accepting the Petition for Annexation and Establishing February 15th,
Madam Mayor.
2021."
But we skipped one. It should be 9A.
Oh,
That was looking good.
yes. 9A, thank you. First reading and adoption by title only of Resolution 1, Series of 2021, entitled, "A Resolution Clarifying the Description of the agricultural land included with the Canyon City area for reinvestment expansion urban renewal plan area pursuant to CRS 31-25-1071D.
We'll actually have a report from the city attorney.
So as part of the Urban Renewal Act, after the city adopts the urban renewal plan, and I think you might recall there was a large legal description at the back of that plan that outlined the boundaries of the urban renewal area. When there's agricultural land, and that's land assessed as agricultural property, is within that boundary, we have to provide notice to the Fremont County assessor, which we did. And the assessor has reviewed these parcels. Now, the description you have here and the clarification we are asking you to approve is to add these separate legal descriptions for each agriculturally assessed parcel to that plan. These parcels were included in that boundary, so there's no change in the boundary of the urban renewal area, but we've discussed these parcels, identified them with the assessor. She doesn't have any objections to the addition of agricultural land, which she's allowed to object to under the statute, but she didn't have any. And so this is just a clarification, adding these ag parcels and calling them out specifically in the plan. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Meisner.
I have none. You've answered my questions.
I strive to.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
So this goes back to what John was saying earlier, Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick. I don't know where these properties are.
Yeah, and I apologize, I'm not sure we have a map, but we certainly can provide one in the future, and we can get you one after tonight, so I apologize for that.
That's okay. I just don't know how to read this.
I understand that. I wouldn't know either just from the descriptions. I just happened to look at the map, so I kind of know where they are, but.
Okay. It doesn't matter, as long as everybody's on board. Maybe in the future, if we could just have some indication of where these properties are.
So Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Gee whiz, Councilwoman Gonzalez stole my thunder, so.
Sorry.
I think we're all thinking similar things. Mayor Pro Tem, or Councilmember Meisner.
So, just to clarify, these property descriptions are already in the UA document.
Correct.
So we're not changing anything, we're just identifying those properties that are already in the document as being agricultural.
All right, so for this further clarification, I would like to entertain a motion for item 9A. If anyone would like to take that. Councilmember Meisner.
Madam Mayor and Council, I move that we, what resolution is it?
Resolution 1.
Resolution
I don't
1.
understand why we get resolutions that don't have numbers on them. You and I got different paperwork.
It's Resolution 1, Series of 2021.
On the description page, not on the resolution itself.
Oh, that would make sense. It's not on the resolution page. Madam Mayor and I move that we approve Resolution 1, Series of 2021. Whoa, that's significant.
I second.
First one. A motion and a second have been made. Any discussion? Then we'll call a vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Catherine. We will now do item 9B, and this is the first reading and adoption by title only of Resolution 2, Series of 2021, entitled, "A Resolution Accepting the Petition for Annexation and Establishing February 15, 2021 as the date of public hearing on requested annexation of a parcel of unincorporated territory located in the C."
County.
County.
Unfortunately, when we upload these, there's only so much room in the data field for the title of the resolution. So it goes as far as it will, and then it stops at the letter C.
I was going to say, we've had some that have been like a half a page long before, resolutions. Okay, that's okay. Will we turn the time over to you then, Patrick?
Certainly. So, Madam Mayor, members of council, you may recall that last year, we went through and simplified the provisions of Title 16 as they pertain to annexation provisions to make them compliant with state law. This is the first annexation to come to us since we have done those amendments. And the process under Colorado state law is that the first step is a resolution goes to council where you accept the petition for the annexation, and then you set the public hearing date. And during the public hearing date has to be between 30 and 60 days out from the date you adopt this particular resolution. So we've set that hearing date for February 15th for consideration of the annexation. During that interval of time, the zoning component of this will then go forward to Planning Commission. Planning Commission will evaluate the zoning component and forward a recommendation that will catch up with the annexation on the 15th of February. So you'll be conducting one public hearing on both items. This particular annexation is being done as a serial annexation because contrary to what we first believed when the application came in, this property is separated from the property that annexed a couple of years ago and was developed for the Bureau of Land Management Office by an 8-foot wide strip of land that runs south from Main Street the entire length of the property. We cannot find any ownership information about this 8-foot strip of land. It appears there once upon a time had been a ditch. There is no assessor record as to who currently owns the property. The fire district has indicated that they are interested in pursuing a quiet title on this to potentially quit claim the property and incorporate it into theirs. But because that 8-foot strip exists, they don't have contiguity to that existing city boundary. So they have to draw all of their contiguity to the north from Main Street. So this is going to be a serial annexation to comply with contiguity requirements under state law.
Very well said, Patrick.
Where's that strip, on the south end, you said?
It's on the east end of the property. It separates this from the BLM property.
Any other questions from council? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion. Councilmember Smith.
Madam Mayor and Council, I propose that we approve Resolution Number 2, Series of 2021.
Second?
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
I would note that we do have the property at 3080 Main Street, which I believe is a Wells Fargo bank, if I'm correct. That is marooned. Essentially, they're an island within the city that is county.
It's a county enclave, yes.
A county enclave. And that if we have further annexations in this area, that we look at correcting that situation. I think that's not an ideal situation and probably should be corrected.
There are provisions for what's known under state law as a forcible annexation. If a property has been completely enclaved and exists as a county island completely surrounded by the city, and it has been so for at least 3 years of time, the city can forcibly annex. That said, I don't know that the right-of-way that exists north of them qualifies for contiguity. I think you actually have to have a zoned piece of land north of them. And I think right now, because there's a county or a county island associated with a shopping center just north of them and an apartment complex, I don't know that they officially have contiguity on the other side of Highway 50.
Thank you.
But yes, we're well aware of that. We would very much like to close that enclave off.
Thank you. I'll now call for a vote.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez? Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Patrick. We'll now move on to item 9D, introduction and first reading by title only of Ordinance 1, Series of 2021, entitled, An Ordinance of the City of Canyon City, Colorado, vacating a portion of Brewster Avenue within the City of Canyon City, Colorado.
And we will have a report from the city engineer.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this vacation was initiated by the property owners of the adjoining properties. We have looked it over with them. We've seen that there is no public interest in keeping the right-of-way. It does not leave any parcel without access. It is not needed for any public purpose for any short-term or long-term need that we can identify. There's no need to relocate any utilities or retain any utility easements within this area. And there are no adverse effects to any of the properties surrounding the vacation. In this one, we in particular went through a large effort to assign ownership of the resulted vacated right-of-way to the adjacent property owners as they're being used today. There's a number of existing encroachments and uses by the adjacent property owners that we have mirrored in the exhibits for assigning those ownerships to the adjacent property owners.
Thank you, Adam.
So, yep.
Go ahead. Did you have more?
Nope. I'm open for any questions now at this point.
Would you like to address council? I'm sorry you've had to wait so long.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, we'll need you to come up to the microphone, please.
My question is, Adam, that's Adam, right?
Mm-hmm.
He keeps saying adjacent property owners. I'm the one who initiated this easement vacation on Brewster. And so I want to know how it is that they're planning on dividing it. The easement is the driveway to my home, to the back of my property where I access every single day. And the other properties, what that would be, I guess, adjacent to it, there's a 12-foot ditch in between. So really the only person that has to go there is myself. So I know in the past they had taken, I guess Ryan Stevens had told me that they would take the middle of the easement and divide it to the property owners on each side. My thing is I can't have my road divided in the middle because it's an existing road to my vintage barn. I mean, it's been grandfathered in, that little drive forever. So it can't be split down the middle for me because then, I won't be able to access properly. Without redoing a whole new road and easement, which, it's just myself and my son there. So I didn't know if there was gonna be photos or pictures or what, but I wanted to see what it is that they decided. Am I getting the whole easement here? I thought Ryan had said that they had contacted the 3 property owners behind that, and 2 of them said that they did not care about obtaining any of it, and the other one did not respond, but they can access their property from Grape Street and Blake Street, so it didn't matter. So it was my understanding that the whole easement was going to be combined in with my property. So that's my concern. I need to know what kind of division or how it is that this is.
Sure. So I'll turn this over to Adam to maybe answer some questions, but first we need for the public record your name, please.
Oh, my name is Heidi Apple, A-P-P-L-E.
Okay.
And what's your address?
1110 Riverside.
Thank you.
Thank you. Adam, can you address these questions, please?
Yes, Ms. Apple's absolutely correct. And that's one of the reasons that we are going through the extra effort in this vacation to assign the property. And so if someone there has Exhibit C that they could show her, but Exhibit C is the property that will be assigned to her, and it is the entire width of Brewster Street adjacent to her property. So every bit of the right-of-way adjacent to her property will become hers after this ordinance becomes in effect. And she's correct. Those adjacent properties to the south have no current use or interest in it. So, Ms. Apple, everything from Grape Street back to that fence that Camerlo owns will now be your property.
Okay, so you're just only going to the width of the actual easement, not, because I still, I have to cross over behind to go to the ditch and stuff, which still crosses over on the neighbors. So just the width of the alley itself, not any of the extended ground, just to the side. I don't know how big you're making the alley be. Are you making the alley be to the property line of the people behind me? I mean, I'm trying to figure that.
So the parcel of land is 60 feet wide. So from your property line, 60 feet south to the neighboring property, now become your parcel.
Okay, so the people behind are getting a little extension to their property, or no?
No. Nope.
Okay, that's all, I was just trying to figure out where it was going to be. I just absolutely wanted to make sure, thank you, I just absolutely wanted to make sure that it wasn't split down the middle, because then
Yeah,
that would be a problem.
Mrs. Apple, it actually, that property extends, or the right-of-way extends further to the west beyond your property line, and that's part of the subdivision of that parcel that Adam's talking about. And I believe Cindy just gave you those exhibits, so that should show with the addresses as well how that's being subdivided.
Yeah, it just doesn't show exactly where the road is on this. Like if we had, we had everything I showed in my exhibits to you that I had sent with the Google aerial, just like you folks were talking about. You could see the aerial Google, and it showed exactly. And so that's kind of where I was wondering, because this doesn't show the exact, I mean.
So you have Grape Street right here, and then this.
I do understand that. It's just, I didn't know.
Maybe I can clarify.
So theirs stays the same and mine just gets added. Theirs does not change. Okay.
Their property line's not changing. We're only affecting the right-of-way.
Okay, I understand now. I just needed to know if there was going to be a crossover from them to get more, so I could know, just so I would know. But yeah, I understand now. So that's all I have to say, so thank you very much.
Well, good. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your patience and.
Yeah, and I was here also just mostly if someone was to contest, so I could, say my point of view or the reasons.
That's
but it
always
looks like
a
I don't really
good
have to, so.
idea. Yes, we
Okay,
appreciate that.
thank you very much.
Councilmember Meisner, do you have a question?
Well, just to clarify, Ms. Apple had mentioned alley. And there will be no alley in that whole arrangement. Is that not correct, Adam?
Yeah, I think the term alley is used because it kind of looks and feels and smells like one, but it's an actual right-of-way platted street called Brewster. It's 60 feet wide. It's really only used as a driveway for Ms. Apple's property currently, and sometimes her neighbors were using it, and that was causing some of the conflict that we're hoping to solve with this in the neighborhood. And we had previously written a license agreement to her neighbor, Camerlo, to the west to help address some of these issues. And so you'll also see in the ordinance there's a clause in there that eliminates that license agreement because there won't be a need for that anymore, with Camerlo also gaining the property that's adjacent to his property that he uses, but he'll no longer be able to access across what will be Apple's property. He'll have to use his frontage off of Riverside Drive, and that will eliminate some of those conflicts that we've had. So, the term alley, I think, is just loosely being used. It's a right-of-way vacation.
Right.
I can explain a little bit here. The drive to my, that he's talking about here, the alley, it was supposed to extend beyond my neighbor to the west property. He, a few years back, put a fence across the city easement alley. So instead of parking behind their own property to access, he built a garden in the middle of the road. So for years, he's been parking behind my barn and all his people where I park, instead of accessing their property behind his property we're supposed to go. And I've tried to address this with years, and so that's why this has all come about. So he doesn't need to access that. They can access their property from the west and from the north. So he's basically, it's kind of like I've been being harassed forever from him illegally putting a fence across the alley and making a huge garden. And so he's been parking with his dogs and his family and stuff, and it's just all been interfering with the driveway to where I live. So that's what he's talking about, the neighbor to the west. That's what started the whole thing, and he doesn't need to be going down there because he can access other way.
Right. I understand that. I just want to make for sure all the parties involved understand that when we vacate this, that land is no longer city land. The city has no responsibility for it. And that land, in particular, where you're getting the vacation there, that is your property. And the more parties that understand that now, prior to us approving this, would probably be less headaches for the chief later on. Because later on, we're gonna have a situation where neighbor A continues to park where he's historically parked, where he potentially believes he has the right to park, and now you're gonna call the police and saying, no, you don't have the right to park there, because now you're on private property. I don't wanna be in that situation.
Yeah, no, I think that they're already letting him know what's going on, and also, there will be 2 big gates going across there, so he won't be able to drive down there anymore. You know, if I get it, then I'm just gonna block it off, because, you know, sometimes people drive down there thinking it's a road.
Right.
And we had one year, we had someone try to turn around up there at nighttime, and they ended up falling over into this ditch. You know, they thought it was a road to somewhere, and it's only a road to my barn. So, that's why I will put a gate up, just to keep
Okay.
other people from driving down there as well.
Well,
But
if staff's comfortable that everybody's understanding what's happening here.
And as Adam stated, we have notified all the surrounding property owners.
Okay.
Yeah, Patrick and I have made quite an effort through this whole process to contact everybody. We started out, like Ms. Apple said, a year or so ago, and we made efforts to try to discuss license agreements versus right-of-way vacation, and it was really Ms. Apple who just took the reins and finally put in the right-of-way application, and we assisted her through that just to try to help solve this neighbor issue.
All right, thank you, Adam. I would
Thanks,
like
Adam.
to entertain a motion, please.
Madam Mayor?
Councilmember Smith.
Madam Mayor and Council, I move we approve ordinance number 1, series of 2021.
Second.
There has been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call a vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
All right, so Ms. Apple, this is the first reading. There will be a second reading in 2 weeks, but things are looking well for you, and I wish you the best. Yeah. Thank you for working through the process with us. Item 9E, introduction and first reading by title only, ordinance of 2, series of 2021, entitled An Ordinance of the City of Canyon City, Colorado, vacating a portion of the alley in Block 7 of original plat of Canyon City and portion of River Street within the City of Canyon City, Colorado.
Again, we'll have a report from the city engineer.
Yes, thank you. This vacation is relevant to the redevelopment that we are still working on for corner of First and Royal Gorge Boulevard with the Constantinos property. Our long-term intent, hopefully shorter than long-term, is to reconfigure the parcel boundaries of the City Hall property and the Constantinos property so that we have the best situation for the lot on the corner of Constantinos so that that can be redeveloped. So right now, both parcels are kind of a hodgepodge of old lot lines and meets and bounds descriptions and so forth. And so in order to do the lot line adjustment and create 2 perfect or more perfected lots for City Hall and for the Constantinos parcel, we're having to go through a number of steps. And one of those steps is vacating some of the right-of-way that was platted previously with the original Canyon City plat that now is occupied by City Hall and its parking lot. And there's a portion of a 16-foot alley which is directly south of the City Hall building, and then there's a portion of what used to be called River Street that now is the realigned state highway that we are looking at vacating for that. So all the same conditions that we just previously discussed with the other vacation apply to this vacation. And so we're looking to take care of this in this step. And then there's a couple other final steps in the legal process that the city attorneys are working on. And then we'll be able to come back and do the final subdivision exemption.
Thank you, Adam. Any questions by council? Councilmember Meisner.
So, am I correct in assuming that the city built City Hall and the city lot on that alley?
No, the structure is not on the alley, but it's occupied by, if you walked out outside south of the building and looked to see where the power lines are at, that and lines up with the alley to the east, you would see where that alley would be.
So how does that?
Projects pretty
how does
much,
that-
you know, that along that south line of the armory. So there's no structure currently on it.
Right, but we still, the city still at some point in time apparently overtook an alley without it being vacated. Is that not correct? I mean, we wouldn't do
Well,
that.
it's city property.
So, yeah.
We can build on our own
It's
alley.
public property that is being used for public use. But we want to reconfigure the lot lines now to have a more perfect deeded parcel.
So we are obtaining perfection
Yeah.
Yes.
where it wasn't before.
Cleaning up a lot of lines.
Yeah, who knew Constantino's was a mess, but who knew how deep down that mess
And
went?
just to update council, we had obtained the quiet title decree for that piece of Constantino's that we didn't previously obtain when we purchased the property. We got that decree last week, so one piece is done. We're working on the
Alright.
second piece.
Many more to go.
Chalk one up.
Yeah. All right, if there's no further discussion, I'd like to call a motion. Councilmember Dennehy.
Madam Mayor and Council, I would like to make a motion on first reading of ordinance number 2, series of 2021.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion?
That motion is to approve it.
Yes. Roll call.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Before we go to executive session, Council, I do have the agenda for the State of the City on Thursday, and if you can come see me for the part of the agenda that you wish to speak on and cover, I'd be happy to pencil you in there. With that, Councilman Meisner, you're usually the one that calls us into executive session, if you would
Madam
mind.
Mayor and Council, I move that City Council enter to an executive session for the purpose to hold a conference with the city's attorney to receive legal advice on specific legal questions pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024B, as in boy, concerning Black Hills and other personnel matters pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024F, and not involving any specific employees who have requested discussion of the matter in open session, specifically the performance objectives, city administrator.
Thank you, Chief Schick, for being here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We really appreciate your presence.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call a vote.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez? Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed? Oh, sorry, Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
All right, we will move into executive session now. Thank you.